Zanon Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. I was recently thinking, what if there was an alternate universe where all of the characters were gender swapped, but not just gender swapped, but instead had were also quirk swapped, the same way that they were quirk swapped in My Hero Academia Smash Volume One, the last chapters or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. Um, what if that actually happened? So I decided to actually look at all of the characters and talk about it. So let's get started with Aoyama. Aoyama was not in Smash um, for this segment. As we all know, his quirk is to shoot a laser beam out of his belly button, which honestly, I'm unsure what exactly they would do with this. Um, it's possible that what all they would do is instead of making it a laser beam, they would have done some other thing shoots out of his belly button, and he actually has complete control over it, and so he doesn't actually need the special belt. And but honestly, I'm unsure exactly how they would go about with that. He's honestly one of the hardest students to actually say for sure. Next up is Ashido. Ashido again was not in Smash, um, but I think her quirk is actually one of the easiest ones to say for sure what it would be. Instead of her acid melting things, I think it would actually build things up, making her actually a fantastic student for Cementos, possibly uh, actually being tutored by Cementos to actually become a really well-rounded student, having to figure out exactly how she's going to use her acid and make it work. Honestly, I think Cementos would have become a fantastic tutor for her if his power doesn't also get swapped. But honestly, that's a question for another day. Um, Next up is Suyu, who was actually in Smash, and what they decided to give her is instead of being a snake, or instead of being a frog, she becomes a snake. They don't actually go into every single power that she has, but she does at least. My best guess is that she does have her fangs that would actually be poisonous, and she probably also can uh, eat anything, and it will basically just sit in her stomach, um, even if it's really big. It's honestly a weird scenario, and I'm kind of worried if someone actually made this into a full-fledged comic, she would probably be the most mature character. And yeah, for certain reasons. I'm not going to go into that right now. Um Next up is Ida, who again was also in Smash. In fact, a lot of the characters were in Smash. But Ida's quirk basically became that she was slow, unable to actually use the speed, and also is extremely clumsy. This makes me think that Ida wouldn't have even been thought of to go into UA at all, if except for maybe general studies or the business. Mostly because of the fact that his family is rich, and I kind of think that his family would still be rich, but I'm not certain. Um, well, actually, I guess it would be she. But the point is that Ida would be not really making it into Class 1A, basically becoming quirkless. Next is Oshiko, who would have actually become one of the most powerful students in the entire class. Again, was in Smash, and the way that they decide to do it is instead of making things float away, it makes them super heavy. This would actually be a fantastic power for her, basically allowing her to make weapons out of almost everything and bring that power down on somebody. And if she just wants to capture someone, she can literally just tap them. And then boom, they're stuck on the ground. They can't move, they can't do anything. They're just collapsed. It's honestly an insanely powerful quirk, and I think that she would have, or he would have become, like I said, one of the most powerful students in Class 1A, and probably in the school, probably becoming one of the big three within her first year. Next up is Ojiro, who was not in Smash, and is probably, again, one of the hardest students to actually say what his quirk would be. Or rather, I guess her quirk would be. A tail is pretty hard to say what the opposite of that is, leading me to think that instead of having the tail, she would have horns, or simply wouldn't have a quirk. If she actually did gain horns, I think that she would have become, again, one of the most powerful students in Class 1A. Maybe not make it into 1A, but probably, excuse me, would become one of the most powerful students, at least. Next up is Kaminari. Kaminari was in Smash, but unlike the other characters, was not actually gender swapped. So instead, I think that his power would basically become something similar to one of Deku's previous classmates, allowing him to shoot out rocks instead of shooting out electricity, making him smarter afterwards, instead of becoming a dumb idiot. Still wouldn't be able to use his quirk after a certain amount of time, but he would become extremely smart. This would actually be a reasonable power for him to have. Basically, before a test, he would just shoot out a few rocks, become smarter, and then ace the test, possibly making him one of the top students in actual academics, instead of being the dumbest student in academics, with Ashido being right behind him. But that's my theory on what would have happened with Kaminari. Next is Kirishima. Again, was in Smash. But in Smash, they decided to give her, instead of becoming super hard skin, having super soft skin. Basically making her quirkless, or rather the equivalent of quirkless. This would make Kirishima basically useless, possibly not even being in any of the classes. Possibly could make it into general studies or something, as, let's be honest, he is a decent smart, but he's still behind. He is one of the dumbest students in the class, and he was only saved because Bakugo took pity on him. Next is Koda, who, again, wasn't in the Smash, but that's mostly because of the fact that he, along with Jiro and Shoji, would actually be the hardest to actually pinpoint what their quirks would be. There is no real opposite for Anti-Voice, Dupli Arm, or Earphone Jack. What could they have actually had is honestly a really hard situation to say. With Sero also being within this category, but the only reason that he actually has an alternate, is because of the fact that he was in this. But we're not going to Sero quite yet. So honestly, I don't know what Koda, Shoji, or Jiro would have. So I'm just going to leave them blank for now. And maybe I'll come back to them in a future video, because I am actually going to make a second and third part of this video. Second part will be on Class B, and third part will be on random students, but we'll see. Honestly, we'll have to wait and see what I decide to do. Next up is Sato, though. Sato's quirk, the way that they decided to reverse it in this, was that as he ate, or rather, as she ate sugar, she would become weaker and weaker, basically becoming so weak that she couldn't move, but she would become extremely smart. This would actually be a relatively good thing for general studies or the support course. Rather than putting Sato into the hero course, most likely Sato would have ended up getting into the other courses, just on academics. Next up is Sero, who again was in this. In fact, everyone from this point on, except for Hagakure, would is actually in Smash. Um, except for also Mineta didn't actually get gender swapped, but that's beside the point. We'll get to him later. Um, but Sero, the way that they decided to go with him is that instead of getting the elbow tape, they gave him scissor forearms. Basically, his entire forearms have become these giant scissors, which honestly sounds terrifying. But I think that Sarah could have become one of the top students of with actual hero coursework, but unfortunately, due to his academics, I don't think that he would have actually been able to make it into classes because of the fact that, like I said, his entire forearms are scissors. This would make it nearly impossible for him to actually do a lot of work. It's possible that what they would have made him some add-ons for his arms so that he could actually do work, but honestly, I'm unsure exactly what would have happened with him. Next is Tokoyami, um, whose quirk in Smash became a light beast instead of being Dark Shadow. It basically became a light version of that. They didn't actually get to show off too much of it, but I think that it would have basically been the same amount of power, but it basically blinds everyone so that the only people that would actually be able to stand up to him would be weaker students, or would be uh, people who have dark quirks or um, a few other or basically they're so powerful that they could actually beat him, but or they use shades or whatever reason. um I think that what it would also do is that dark shadow or light shadow, I guess would be is what we're going to call is what I should call it, would basically be super powerful in the daylight but would be extremely scared in the dark. I'm unsure exactly how they would go about with this, but it would honestly make him an interesting character for Tokoyami. Next is Todoroki, who literally doesn't change. Literally, the only thing that changes is that his power set gets swapped when he becomes gender flipped. So basically, instead of his right side becomes fire, his left side becomes ice, and really the only thing that it affects in this is that he isn't sure which one he should use more because of the fact that now does he use the side that was fire because he hates his father, or should he use the side that is currently fire? It really confuses him, and it's honest. And if this was a gender swapped universe, then it wouldn't matter because he would probably still hate whatever side is the one that his mother burned. It all depends on what happened, but yeah. Next up is Hagakure. Um, Useless, just plain and simple. Probably would have become quirkless because there's literally nothing you can do if you're not invisible. Then I don't understand how does this work even. Yeah. So next up is Bakugo. Again, was in this. Um, Instead of having explosions coming out of his hand, she becomes is able to shoot out basically frozen. Wait, I want to make sure I actually said this right. Was it? Yeah. Freezing liquid nitrogen oozes from her palms. It's basically the she can freeze everything instead of blowing things up. Basically becoming a version of Todoroki's ice side of his family, and it's like, ta-da! He's still powerful. Is the point, and it's really interesting. Um, Deku. Deku is actually a really interesting case. Unlike the others who actually they got to see what their quirk was when they got gender swapped, we actually only get to see Deku get gender swapped. We don't get to see what his power set would be. And we also don't get to see what All Might's would be, which is honestly really weird. We only get to see the two of them actually get gender swapped, not actually with their actual powers. So what I think that could have happened is instead Deku would have either become basically the equivalent of All for One, or he would have instead kept his quirk that he had originally, making him uh, the instead of him being this super powerful, or instead of him being this super weak student who didn't get anything, um, basically he would have continued to actually have his quirk that he would have inherited from his parents, likely fire manipulation, which I have talked about in a previous video, and you should expect that to make some comeback in the future. We'll see exactly what they decide to do in the future of the series. But yeah. Next is Mineta, who didn't even get gender swapped. He was in there, but he wasn't gender swapped even. Um, all I think that would have happened with Mineta is that Mineta would still have the sticky balls, but they would actually be sticky in the opposite way. Basically, they stick to him, basically, so that or rather she chooses every night to tie up her hands down at the end of at the other end of her body, so that she doesn't ever touch her hair. And instead has to get other gloves that really could be anything, and will take those and then throw them out at the enemy. Uh, basically, instead of it, basically what it would do is it would allow Mineta to he sticks to these things, but they bounce off everything else, allowing him to basically throw them, and it would cause other people to be floating away. And there's a lot of interesting things that could have happened with it, and it's honestly a interesting thing to say the least. It's possible that if he threw them hard enough, and the person was running at him hard enough, they would be when they both hit, all of that force that was coming from both of them would be flung into the other person, causing them to be sent really far away, and honestly, and it could possibly hurt somebody. Honestly, I feel that Mineta would have, instead of going for the hero course, probably would have gone with a support course, or would instead go to become a sidekick only, as his power really wouldn't actually be well suited to actually contain people, but rather to help others to get to other places. So, yeah. Next is Momo. Basically becomes quirkless. That is exactly what they decided to do with the Smash. While I do think that there could have been some really nice things that they could have gone with Momo, they instead decided anti-creation, can't create anything, which honestly is kind of sad. But oh well, stuff happens, and that's kind of sad. Honestly, I think Momo would have actually been one of the most powerful, could have possibly become one of the most powerful students, but unfortunately, if she got gender swapped, she would become quirkless and probably wouldn't even be rich anymore, because her family's quirk is the creation quirk. And without it, they probably wouldn't have been able to make their fortune. So, unfortunately, yeah, I think that Momo would basically become a new Deku. Possibly would have gotten All Might's quirk, but that's a story for another day. But anyways, guys, that is all of the characters in Class 1A. What if they got gender swapped? Or rather, quirk swapped, I guess. Obviously, like I said, this is going to be a 3-part video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, then definitely leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. Let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. And you should expect the next episode by at approximately noon today. And the 3rd part should be coming out tomorrow. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, please leave a like, leave your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Let me know if you are going to leave a theory. Make sure to use the hashtag theory review, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on.